Oh, welcome back, Devils fans. It is your host, Ace, here on Running with the Devils, where we are talking New Jersey Devils hockey all year long. Please hit that subscribe button, smash the like, share with a friend. Thank you very much. And there have been many surreal moments for me in the brief existence of this channel, but perhaps none more surreal than right now. My guest today has written over 100 books, spanning a career now in its 8th decade, encompassing print media, television, radio, and of course now the online internet world. A walking hockey encyclopedia, a Lester Patrick Award winner, a 7-time Emmy Award winner, a member of the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame, and one of the greatest personalities the sport has ever known. At 93 years young, a true icon of the game, Stan the Maven Fischler. And wow, unbelievable. This is just, I think I made it. I think I could retire after this.
This is the first time I ever got a standing ovation on television.
It's not quite television, Stan. It's close
podcast,
to it, but you are certainly deserving of it. And let me start off by saying I really appreciate you doing this. You are a huge part of my childhood, along with many of the other viewers. We always reminisce about the old days, the old guard with the teams, and Lou and you, Doc, Chico, Maddie, everybody that was so part of our, almost everyday lives for years and years. Players come and go, but, guys like you that were there throughout, good times and bad, will always have a special place in the hearts of all of us. Always enjoyed watching you and your approach. You were always a no BS kind of guy. You said what was on your mind and always had fun with it. And it's always seemed like the players enjoyed talking to you, obviously. And you're a huge inspiration to me with my whole approach to this kind of new world media thing. You've been the guy that I've looked up to since I was a little kid. So I really appreciate you doing this. It's an honor to talk to you. And you look awesome, Stan. You really look awesome. What are you up to? What's a day in the life of Stan Fischler look like today?
Well, one of the things that really has kept me going starts with family. I'm with my younger son, Simon, living here in Israel with his wife, Lilach, and I have 3 grandchildren from Simon, and 2 grandchildren in Portland, Oregon, with my older son, Ben. But I've told this. I told this to Gary Bettman. I told this to Bill Daly at the NHL. The thing that's keeping me going, or keeps me going, is hockey. I've even going back to my first years when I used to go to the Garden to the afternoon games, the Sunday afternoon Eastern League games. As a kid, I used to write on the back of the ticket stubs my reaction to a game. Then I started to write it into space around the rosters and the program. So writing about hockey's always been very, very big to me. And something else that I thought of just the other day, and I never mentioned it before, but I didn't have any brothers or sisters. I have had friends, but I never had a brother, big brother, or a sister. But I did have my Aunt Helen, who lives in the house, was like my big sister. But hockey was you could say, in a sense, was my brother. Hockey was something that I always leaned on, and when my teams won, I was always very happy.
as we all are. So I want to start off with obviously sad news came down this week. Larry Brooks has passed. Working in the area for so long in hockey, I was just curious if you had any good Larry Brooks stories, or what was your relationship like with him over the years?
Well, I followed Larry from his very start, writing hockey for the Post, and we were colleagues. I would never say that we were good friends, but we were colleagues, and that's as honest as I can be. Every once in a while, we'd have conversations. When he worked for the Devils in the public relations area, one of the most significant events was Yellow Sunday, which was the game when the Don Koharski episode, Have Another Donut. That was a very key, pivotal point for Brooks, who had been, working under Lou Lamoriello at the time. Larry had two breaks. One was coming to work for the Devil. When I say break in terms of his journalism, and then a second one later on. I never figured out what it was about, but when he came back the second time, I was doing Islander games, and I interviewed him between periods, and that was like a welcome back, Larry. That was the first time he was really being shown in public on television, that he was, back in the saddle again. And of course, every once in a while we'd have an interplay. He'd call me. I would say he'd call me about 3 or 4 times over a year with a history question, something that he needed to know. And when UBS opened for the Islanders, the arena opened in Belmont. John Ledecky, who was one of the co-owners, he set up with my friend David Kolb, who was a big help on this, a Stan Fischler press area exhibit with my old typewriters and all kinds of stuff. And Larry was there, and when I did my little speech, I pointed out that Larry, oh, wow.
Yeah. We come prepared, Stan. We're going to get to the press level, but you led me there. Very nice display, I may add, they done over there.
See that typewriter? That typewriter gave me migraines when I had to change the ribbons. Anyhow, I singled out Larry as basically the emperor of New York hockey writing. And, considering his run, there it is again.
Yeah.
Considering his run, that was an apt description. And I know that he had a nice blush over that. So that was the last time I actually saw him in person. I know that the second hockey writer, Molly Walker, who was my last intern that I had was Molly Walker. She's been writing hockey alongside Larry, covering the Rangers. So I was shocked when I saw the story in the Post that he was taking a leave. It seemed a little bit ominous, and I wrote a couple of good wishes to him. And Tommy Murray, who was my editor at the Hockey News and a good friend of Larry's, he wrote to me about a week ago that Larry's got a big challenge ahead. I never thought, like everybody else who's been in touch with me since his death, the same word is uttered, and that's shock. We're all shocked when you have somebody who is a fixture for the many decades that he had doing that same thing. You expect a person to go on forever because that's what you'd like. So I wrote a piece on my Hockey News Ranger website about a big one, and I did another one for the El Monters, which is the Dave Kolb's and Rosner's piece about Larry. And that's it.
Wow.
It's a shock.
Yes, I'll definitely.
He was very. I also did a thing on X Twitter, tweeted that it was interesting that we've been blessed with 3 NHL teams in our area, which is unique in the league. 3, and Larry at one time or another covered each of them well, and so it's a nice parlay. And he's done well by us us being hockey fans.
Whenever I heard his name over the years, I always immediately thought of the infamous battles with John Tortorella. I've always just really enjoyed the back and forth. I was curious, have you ever had any sort of similar or contentious kind of either one-off incidents or relationships with NHL coaches throughout your very extensive career?
I've had many. One of my earlier books was called Slapshot, which was before the movie. In fact, they had to pay me to use the title, and I detailed many of them. The first, which was in many ways the worst, was with the Ranger coach Phil Watson. He said, I worked for the Rangers in publicity in 54, 55. It was a wonderful stepping stone for me right out of college, and everything about it was great. But my boss, Frank Boucher, who was, a Hall of Famer, Frank got fired. He was with the team since 1926. And I was very, that broke my heart because I love working with him. And anyhow, they brought in Phil Watson as coach. And Watson was a very fiery guy. And we clashed many times. One time at one of the hockey writers, there used to be hockey writers' luncheon every Tuesday at Leone's restaurant in Manhattan, which was 2 blocks from the old Garden. And I began writing critically of him, and he got very angry with me. And I remember the first public clash, we were at the restaurant, and there was always an opportunity after the dessert for, the hockey guy spoke. And he had just been responsible for sending 3 good players down to Providence as punishment. And I was the only one who blasted him for it. And he gets up and he starts doing things, and he says, I just sent Dave Creighton, Camille Henry, and Aldo Whittlein down to Providence. What do you think of that, Joe Nichols? And he goes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He asked every guy, and every guy just, didn't. Then he came to me, and I said, you made a mistake, and you shouldn't have sent them down. I was later proven right because each one of them came back and was very good. And he yells, well, that shows you don't know anything about hockey. And from that point on, we had a feud. I wrote an article for him about him called Is Watson Hockey's Eddie Stanky? Eddie Stanky was a baseball great as a second baseman. He wasn't so great as a manager because he was too temperamental. And Watson was just like him. Well, they got so angry with me that the hockey magazine, Hockey Pictorial, was sold at the Garden, and they banned it. I had to take 100 copies and stand on the corner of 49th Street and 8th Avenue and sell my damn thing because of this guy. So that was, our feud lasted until he finally got canned. And that was a big one. And then, of course, I had a big one later on with the name of Francis, and I'm sure you don't know the story with my wife, or do you? Do you know the story with my wife?
About the press box?
Yes.
I do. Go ahead. Let me.
Well, that was a major feud because my wife Shirley and I already were doing a lot of hockey writing, and she was a better writer than I was. Oh, there she is. You can see her with her beautiful blonde wig, us playing table hockey. I got to commend you. You were really prepared for this.
I tried my best, Dan. I tried.
Well, your best is very, very good. And look how great my hair was. Jesus.
Very thick. Very, very thick.
I'd like that hair back. But anyhow, Shirley was writing hockey with me. She did several of her own hockey books. She was a wonderful writer. And during the playoffs of 1971, the Rangers were playing the Maple Leafs. And we already were doing a lot of work on the Canadian media. And the Kingston, Ontario paper, which was a pretty big paper, still is, called the Whig Standard, they wanted somebody to cover the Maple Leaf Rangers series. and they asked Shirley to go there to cover the series. Now, this is hard to believe now, but in those days, every single writer who covered the Rangers, to get in, you didn't have a pass. You got a ticket. For every game, there was a ticket, like a regular ticket for a customer, a fan. But on the ticket, it said, ladies not permitted in the press box. Okay? Can you imagine that today?
No.
Ladies not permitted in the press box.
And this was in the 70s, correct? This wasn't like
1971.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So Shirley had to cover, so she went up to the press box. Fortunately, Jim Bouton, the former Yankee pitcher, was then a newscaster, and he was right behind her, so he was a witness. And when Shirley got to the press box, the guy wouldn't let her in. And there was Bouton, a witness to this. So what she had to do was find some cockamamie seat up in the top with her typewriter on her lap and with her notes. And it was disgraceful. When she came home after the game, she said, "What should I do?" And I said, "What you should do is contact the New York City Human Rights Commission and tell them." And she did. And they had a hearing with the range of people there. Emil Francis was the GM at the time. John Halligan was the PR guy. And she won. She was a revolutionary. And from that point on, they allowed women into the press box. But the battle made enemies. Every single guy but one writer, Neil Offman from the Post, was against her coming into the box. Guys who were my friends for years. Neil, who was the guy? Mel Woody from the Newark News. Jerry Eskenazi, who was my good friend from the Times. He didn't stick up. So we lost friends. And of course, Francis wasn't too happy about losing the battle, but I give him credit because he was a gentleman after that. And so the feud didn't, but it was a big deal, a very big deal.
No, it's a great story, and how she was a pioneer and how you kind of helped her through that whole thing and paved the way, obviously, for the many women working in hockey and sports today. I'm curious, why do you think there was such a resistance, including some of your friends that you just spoke about? Why do you think that they were against women being in that area?
Very simple answer. There was a fraternity. I was part of that fraternity. There were no guys there, and they liked the fraternity. And they didn't like the idea of a woman intruding in their fraternity. Plus, the Rangers, they thought this is the way it should be, and they made a point. It was in plain English: ladies not permitted in the press box. It couldn't be more clear than that. Now, I'll tell you another thing about my wife. Shirley was also a pioneer. When the World Hockey came along, the New England Whalers, thanks to my friend Howard Baldwin, who was running the team then, made Shirley and I the first husband and wife color commentators for the Whalers games, something that really hasn't received any attention, but who needs it? I'm telling you. So there was never a husband and wife team. And we covered and that in turn led to me getting into the NHL on TV with the Islanders the following year in 75. So she was part of a very significant double dip of changing things.
No, it's an amazing story, and I knew it because I did purchase Tales of Brooklyn yesterday. I believe this is one of your latest books of the 100+ that you've written. It's amazing. This one is one of my personal favorites that I've had in my Devil's library. I'll put links for everybody watching here in the description to find all of Stan's books, but Tales of Brooklyn definitely has the anecdote about breaking the gender barrier and getting your wife rightfully placed in the press box. What else? Give me a quick kind of synopsis for the folks, what they're going to learn about you and your life and career in Tales of Brooklyn.
First of all, it's available through Amazon if anybody wants to buy it. That's me on Vernon Avenue after a very, very cold spell. And my mother bought me a pair of double runners. I'm wearing double runner ice skates. Um, the book is all about my life in Brooklyn from the age of 3, which was 1935, through 1951, which was age 19. And there's a lot of hockey in it, including roller hockey. Roller hockey was a big part of my life. I'm still in touch with my buddy, Carl Glickman, who was my defense partner on the Brooklyn Wizards hockey team. This was 50-51. And I tell stories of what it was like during wartime in World War II. What was it like on the home front? What was it like, what kind of games we played? When I was growing up, the whole street, Vernon Avenue, it was a playground. There weren't any cars because in wartime, first of all, you couldn't afford a car to begin with in our neighborhood. So we used to play punch ball in the street. We used to play Ringalivio in the street. We used to play hide and go seek in the street. And we had a number of other games, including marbles. I mean, it was a whole different world, and I tell stories about that. I think the most interesting story in terms of the title, which I think was the last story in the book, because it was 1951, how my mother got arrested by the New York State Police. That's the title of the chapter. And as you read it, you'll see how she was arrested by the New York State Police. The only hint I'll tell you is I was playing drums in a dance band in the Catskills. And in 1951, I was playing at Pollock's Hotel in Ferndale, New York, in the Borscht Belt. And that's where Molly Fischler, my mother, got arrested.
I look forward to getting that in the book. And for everyone interested, I will put the link in the description. It's on Amazon, but link in description to get Stan's book. I've read the first few pages and skimmed through it. Some amazing stories. Stan's memory is second to none. And how do you remember all of this stuff so in depth, Stan? It is remarkable. Whether you're, in written word.
I've been asked this about hockey, about episodes that I remember, and my answer is always the same. These things meant something to me at the time, okay? I can remember the best catch I ever made in punchball when Murray Matlin, who was the best punchball player on Vernon Avenue, got up and he hit a liner. I was playing first. He hit a liner, and I had gotten this oxblood-colored first baseman's mitt, which was basically for punchball. And Murray whacked this ball, and I was at first, and it was going to my right. And it was like a blur, but I just sticked the glove out, and the ball went into my oxblood-covered first baseman's mitt. And this was like the greatest catch I ever made. So how am I going to ever forget that? And it's in the book. It's in the book, because punchball was our official game from April until September, although we also did softball. I got a great tragic softball story in the book. But I have to ask you something right now. Did you see the back of the book, the picture on the back of the book?
I did not. I have the digital copy because I wanted to peruse through it yesterday. So I do think it has all the photos, which, by the way, there are some amazing photos that you've taken or someone related to has taken over the years, including your maple leaf kind of wall painting that you did. We're giving them way too much, Stan. We got to shift gears from the book. You got to buy the book. Amazing book. We have photos. You see some of Stan's art. Link in description. All right, so shifting gears now a little bit, because this is a New Jersey Devils themed channel. Obviously, like I mentioned earlier, a huge part of Devils history. I guess walk me through how you first started covering the Devils back in the day.
Well, as I said, my first gig was with the Rangers, and then I wound up doing the Islanders. And when the Devils came along, John McMullen, Dr. McMullen, was the owner, and he was a very, very strong personality who I got to know well. At that time, Sports Channel was Chuck Dolan's baby out on the island. They were doing the Islander games, and they got to the Devils. I think it was about 85 or 86. There was a break, and I was asked to do the Devils because I was also connected to Sports Channel through the Islanders. So I came in and started doing the game. My first play-by-play guy was Al Albert, Marv Albert's kid brother, and Steve Albert's older brother. When it was before they made the playoffs. It was the year before they made the playoffs. That first playoff year was also the year of the Yellow Sunday, and Carpenter was the coach, redheaded coach, and I remember we had a game in Chicago where I was working with Al Albert, and he got furious about a referee's call. I'd never seen this before or since in my entire life. And he called the referee over to the bench. I don't remember who the ref was. And this is exactly what he did. He stared at the ref for about 20 seconds. It was unreal. It was absolutely unreal. And of course, he never got, you don't get what you want from the refs when you pull that kind of stuff on them. So anyhow, what happened was that Carpenter was given basically, Lou Lamoriello had taken over the team. So Lou was the GM, and they had a big game with the Rangers about 2 weeks before Christmas. Mind you, they had not made the playoffs, right, up until that point. And the Devils had to win this game. It would be like a turning point game. And the Rangers killed them, and that was the end of Carpenter. It took about a month, and Lou decided, brought in Schoenfeld. And of course, then the run from there to making the playoffs on the final night of the season, beating out the Rangers, and we covered that. That was one of the most memorable periods of my life. And of then getting into getting into the playoffs and advancing the way they did to the third round. They damn near beat the Bruins and made it into the finals. It went to Game 7 at Boston Garden, and it was a zip game. And Patty Verbeek got the puck in front of the net, and it looked like it was going to be a sure goal. And the Bruin goalie, I can't think of his name right now, but he made the save of his life. He later told me that it was the save of his life. And then the Bruins wound up scoring, and they knocked us off. But I got friendly with McMullen. Lou actually, when Lou got the job, he took me to lunch before the season started, and he asked me questions about the team, and he asked me about the coach. And I wasn't going to, wasn't going to stab the coach in the back. And I said,
I just got to cut you off 1 second, Stan. Is this the first time you've ever met Lou Lamoriello at this point?
Yes.
Okay. So he brings you out to lunch.
I had been in touch with him through the Hockey News because I did a story about him in Providence, but we never met. And I said, don't ask me about the coach. You see what he does in the first few months, which is what he did. And of course, he fired him, and he brought in Schoenfeld, which was a fantastic move. And, that saga of the Devils being down in the dumps and making the playoffs and knocking off the Rangers on the final night was one of the greatest accomplishments that I ever covered, as a journalist or as a TV guy.
No, quite a run. Before my time, I've obviously seen all the videos and read articles and heard all the quotes and things related to it, and talked to a lot of fans that were fans back then, and everyone said it really was that kind of sense of maybe this is the turning of the tide, and they're made the playoffs now. The whole Mickey Mouse organization thing. I'm curious, what was your thoughts on that when Gretzky called the Devils a Mickey Mouse organization?
Well, let me just preface it by saying that when the team was about to reach its 15th year, Dr. McMullen asked me and my wife, Shirley, to write a book about the team, the first 15-year history of the team. And of course, the Mickey Mouse thing was just another great episode because it started in Edmonton and they got killed by the Oilers. And Gretzky was the star by that time, a big star. And he was interviewed after the game. And his buddy he had friends on the Devils, and he was upset that, they weren't a better competitor. And he said, called it a Mickey Mouse organization. Well, sometimes you throw away a line like that, nobody gives a damn. But it was Gretzky who said it, and it came all the way across. And of course, McMullen was furious, very furious, as well as Devils fans were furious. And then, of course, the Edmonton Oilers came to the Meadowlands subsequently. And I have a picture. A lot of us had, we wore Mickey Mouse hats, and Glenn Sather, the boss of the Oilers, posed with me wearing a Mickey Mouse hat. That was a terrific game. Chico played one of his greatest games. He didn't win the game, but he was fantastic, and they won. But it became part of the Devils' lore, the Mickey Mouse event, and subsequent to that, it was a great motivator.
I feel like over time, there hasn't been a ton of insight into Dr. McMullen. There's been references, obviously. Ken Danico's talked about him a lot and his role in his career. What kind of guy was he? What kind of insight can you give us into, the early years, I guess, leading up to the first cup in terms of Dr. McMullen and kind of how he was as an owner and as a guy?
Well, first of all, he's a New Jersey hero. He was the guy who took the team and moved it out of Colorado to New Jersey. So, poof, just like that, you have a big league team, a major league team, the first major league team in the state of New Jersey. That's number one. Secondly, he used his own money. He didn't take money from anybody else. And he was guaranteed, which of course was an error, that it would be an automatic sellout and all the people who were Ranger fans in New Jersey would become Devil fans. Well, that didn't work out. And as Doc was a very funny guy also. And he said that the reason why is that with Ranger fans, it's in their genes, so they can't, they pass it on from father to son to father to son, which of course was true. But he was a hero. He went to Annapolis. He became a very significant man, and he was a hero in World War II in the Navy. His father had been in the shipping business, and he took over after he graduated and after his naval experience. He went into the business, became very successful, and very pro-New Jersey. He was very, very dedicated to New Jersey. That's how they got the name Devils, from the legendary devil from New Jersey. And I used to have lunch with him like once a month. He was tough. He was a very tough guy, but very straightforward. And of course, he was furious with the way the New Jersey Sports Authority was charging him rent, and that's why he had this offer to move the team to Nashville with a brand new arena. That was a scary time. That was during the first playoff run, and a lot of us felt we were going to lose the team. I would say that the odds were about 60-40. We were going to lose the team, and McMullen was the center. And what happened was the Devils did so well going into the third round, and they became the talk of the Med area. And as McMullen said, he said that when we beat the Flyers in the third round, and this thing was going on with the Sports Authority. The team was so popular by that time that he had all the cards now, right? So after they beat the Flyers, I went into the dressing room to interview him. He always had his pet dog with him, by the way, Bubba. And it was a great scene. He's got the dog. I'm interviewing him with Bubba there. And I said, John, what is the most significant outcome of this victory, beating Philadelphia? And he had a great line. He says, it shows what a great negotiator Lou is, meaning that the team is now going into the third round, and he, because the team is doing so well, and of course he was right because the team had done so well, he got a great cut, and that's what kept the team in New Jersey.
Do you think he was really considering Nashville, or was it more of like a bluff to have leverage?
It wasn't the bluff. You didn't fool around. You didn't mess around with Dr. McMullen. I can tell you that. I mean, I had some tough times with him. I mean, he felt that he was being wronged, badly wronged, he would stuck up for his decision. He felt that New Jersey Sports Authority was doing wrong by him. And there he had a free ticket to Nashville, but he didn't want to leave New Jersey. But he didn't want to get a raw deal, so he went out, and Lou was his negotiator by putting a team into the most popular. It was the most popular team in the New York area at that time.
We'll get to that run in a little bit. So yeah, that's amazing. What a story, and so many things would be different. We might not even be here doing this right now had the team left for Nashville after the 95 Cup run. But we're going to fast forward a little bit in your Devils career here. You and Matt and the Maven, I talk about this with all my longtime Devils fans friends all the time. What was the first year, I guess, you started with Matty? And I guess, could you just shed a little light on the whole Matt and the Maven kind of run, which obviously also included another favorite that we'll get to afterwards as well.
Well, Matty Loughlin is one of my best friends to this day. Matty Loughlin was really the genius behind Matt and the Maven, because Matty understood my sense of humor, and he let me fool around, and he reacted like Bergen and McCarthy. It was an act, and he was a straight man, and we did some ridiculous things. I mean, we thought we were. One time we had he started in with me, and he made me laugh about something that he said, and then he started laughing, and now we're laughing, and we couldn't stop laughing. Once I tried to stop myself and get him to stop, but he wouldn't stop, and then he tried to get me to stop, and we did this whole minute. We did nothing but laughing, and Doc and Chico were up in the booth, and they didn't know what the hell was going on because they couldn't hear us. And I thought we were going to be fired the next day because we killed an important pregame minute doing nothing but laughing like a bunch of silly fools. But we had a lot of great stuff. We had the Santa Claus routine we did before Christmas, and we had the duck. Chuck the duck come down from the ceiling.
You mean that one? So I had to ask, how did this come about? Do you remember the first time you guys had Chuck the duck? I mean, these are core childhood memories. Stan, a stupid little stuffed animal. There are so many fans that when they see this, they're going to go ballistic looking at you talk about Chuck all these years later. But do you remember how this came about and just kind of the origin story of Chuck the duck? Because this, again, is a huge part of my childhood as a Devils fan, watching you guys on the broadcast.
I told you it was all because of Matty Loughlin. He appreciated my nonsense. And I said that, why don't we do a gimmick? There's old Chuck in his prime wearing his helmet. And I said, I remember when Groucho Marx had this television show, You Bet Your Life, and every once in a while every show, he'd say, if you say the secret word, you'll win. And then when you said the secret word, the duck came flying down. And of course, my producer, who was still there 30 years, one of the funniest guy in the world, Roland Dratch, he went along with the thing, and Chuck the Duck became famous. And in fact, Chuck became so famous that they started to take him on the road. And they did little features with him wherever they were playing. And Chuck would do this and that. Doc Emmerich, the original Chuck the Duck, which I got from one of my neighbors whose kid had a lot of stuffed animals. Doc Emmerich bid a lot of money for the original Chuck, and we then had a replacement. But there was the original Chuck was like any original, was the best of them all. And we would have kept doing the Matt and the Maven, but the lockout came along, and the lockout killed a lot of great stuff. And Matty, not being sure that his future, Lou offered him a 5-year deal to do the radio play-by-play, and that was the end of Chuck the Duck.
What an era!
I have to tell you, that was the most fun. That was the most fun for a long period of time that I ever had.
And I loved it as a kid into my teenage years, however old I was watching this. It was must-see TV, and looking back on it, maybe the people, I'm going to post in the description, I'll post the link. There was a YouTube account from years ago that has, it's almost like a time capsule, if you will, of Devils history for maybe that 15, 20-year span from like mid-90s to maybe early 2010s. And there is a Chuck the Duck compilation video, and I'll email this to you as well, Stan, with all the clips of like, yeah, they have him on a boat, he's on jet skis, with girls in Halloween costumes. It really was, for something just so stupid and small, it really was amazing at the time. And I'll send you that video. You'll get a kick out of it. Link in the description for everybody watching.
We were lucky that Chuck didn't have an agent.
Yeah. Chuck would have been a very sought after unrestricted free agent for sure. Would have had a lot of deals coming in.
Yeah, that was. We had other episodes where we bust out laughing, but we were able to control ourselves, and we were the ones who broke Kenny Danico in as the analyst that he is now. That was his last year, his 20th year with the Devils. A great guy. I have to tell you, the people who run the truck who still. That's a team that's gone on and on. The same group there, and one of my interns, his name is Solon, a Greek kid. I got him a job. He's now working in the truck. It's been a wonderful experience for me.
I've met him. Shout out to Solon. Very nice kid. He was very crucial in setting this all up. Really nice kid, and hope that he achieves everything he wants to in this field. And I'm a little jealous that I had not tried to do something similar when I was younger. But here we are now, right? The magic of the internet. The magic of the internet, Stan. All right, so we got Chuck the Duck. I got another classic for you here. So we have another.
Oh my God.
Another throwback photo. So yourself with Doc and Chico and Deb Placey, Deb Kaufman, however you folks remember her. We had a name change over the years. What was it like working with this crew?
It was like being in heaven, TV heaven. First of all, Deb was a great pro, great pro. Doc, greatest at what he did. And Chico, who I'm still in touch with, is one of the all-time personalities in sports. And Chico was a lot like Matty in that he read me very well. One of the highlights of every production meeting was that I had to tell a joke. And it was a carryover from the Islander production meetings. And the classic joke was a guy is walking down Fifth Avenue arm in arm with two live penguins. And the cop sees him, and the cop says, "You can't do that." And the guy says, "What do you mean?" He says, "You can't be walking here with 2 live penguins. I can give you a ticket." So the guy said, "What do you want me to do?" He says, "Well, you got to take those penguins to the Bronx Zoo right now, or I'll give you a summons. Cost you $50. So he hails a cab. He jumps into the cab with the penguins. He takes them to the Bronx Zoo. And the next day, the cop's on the beat in front of St. Patrick's. Car pulls up at a red light at 50th 5th, and the cop looks in the car. There's the same guy as yesterday, only now he's driving the car. And in the back of the car, the 2 penguins sitting in the back seat, only now they're wearing sunglasses. So the cop goes over to the guy. He says, "What the hell are you doing? I told you that you couldn't be, you can't, what are you doing with the penguins here? I told you to take them to the Bronx Zoo." The guy says, "I took them to the Bronx Zoo and they loved it. Now we're going to Coney Island."
I love it.
That was a joke that led. So my producer said, "You got to tell a joke before every production meeting." So I had Deb. Deb was a wonderful person to work with. As I said, a great pro. And I don't have to tell you about Doc, and you know all about Chico. They're just great people. Great people. Wonderful run. I'm still in touch with Doc. I'm in touch with Chico all the time. We exchange notes all the time.
Chico, another great storyteller. Over the years, when you look back at it, all of your years covering the Devils, who would you say were your favorite guys to interview?
Well, Marty Brodeur was incredibly. Marty was one of the greatest. There's no question about that. He has the wins to prove it, and he was always relaxed. It didn't matter. There was never any time when he would not be available for an interview. So what happened was that when they reached Game 7 against Anaheim in 2003, what could be more pressure-packed than a Game 7? Goalies didn't like to talk to you even before any game. And there, 1 hour before the game, Marty Brodeur is doing an interview with a Canadian guy, like it's a walk in the park with him. And so Marty was the greatest. Marty was the greatest. There were a lot of other guys who were very, very good on the team. And I would say Scotty Niedermeyer, Scotty Gomez. I mean, they were one after another. They were just fantastic. But Johnny Madden, Jay Pandolfo, and some of the most fun guys were the tough guys on it. Mike Peluso was another great one. Scotty Stevens was very upfront and very honest, but obviously Marty was the best.
Marty, always a classic. What a treat. I always tell the younger kids, they're probably tired of myself and some of the other fans talking about it, but to look back, I mean, I knew we were spoiled at the time, but to have, Marty, Stevens, Niedermeyer, to have you, Doc, Chico, it was just excellence everywhere. Lou, it was just like the on ice product was awesome. The broadcast was awesome. Everything about it was awesome. Most of all, the ticket prices back then were really awesome compared to nowadays. But looking at your time, I guess, with all of these ups and downs and the cup teams, what would you say is one of your more memorable moments or games? Is there something that sticks out to you?
Well, any cup winning game is at the top of the list. Now, when we played the Red Wings, the year of the first cup, it was incredible because they were treating us, the media in Detroit, where the series opened, treated the Devils like they were third-class citizens. It was an embarrassment. They had a pregame luncheon, and they had the Red Wings and they had the Devils, and the Red Wings were at the dais with Scotty Bowman and all the other Red Wing greats. And when it was over and the Red Wings left, half of the media walked out on us. Like they didn't even want to waste their time on the Devils, and it was an embarrassment. And of course, then we go into the Joe Louis and beat him in the first game. Then we beat him in the second game, and Scotty Gomez pulled one of the greatest body checks ever in that series. And Marty resisted. They were throwing octopi on the ice, and then we won the second game with the great Scotty Niedermayer goal and the Jimmy Dowd goal, and they were stunned. And then we beat them in New Jersey. But I'll tell you something right now. We were both, and when I say we, I mean everybody in the media, certainly with the TV crew. We thought that we didn't want to lose a game to Detroit because we felt if we won a game, they won a game, we'd be done. And going into that fourth and final game, it was scary. And Marty Brodeur told me that he was worried about it until the last minute. He was looking at the clock, and he said the best time he ever had in his life was that last minute, counting it down. He wanted it never to end, and of course, that was one of the most unbelievable experiences. And of course, winning the cup in Dallas was another great experience. But particularly when you remember Peter Sikora had to be hospitalized, and then it goes into overtime, and we had to kill a penalty to get through there, and then of course the winning goal. People forget it was a Patrick Elias beautiful pass that led to the winner. Elias should be in the Hall of Fame, by the way.
I have that on my list of topics. You referred to Sikora getting knocked out. Obviously, one of the vivid images in my head from amongst many from that game is Larry Robinson wearing his jersey backwards. That was cut off of his body, actually, when he was on the ice. Larry had it on backwards during the whole, cup celebration on the ice. And then at some point, I believe Patrick Elias put it on as well. What an epic series that was. But rewinding back a little bit to 95, you had talked about Marty and Stevens. At that point in their young careers, I think they were both young 20s. Marty was 22 when that playoff year started and turned 23, I think, during the conference finals. Was it apparent to you at that point that they were going to, obviously they were all-stars, I guess, but did you foresee them having the, all-time great Hall of Fame careers that they did, or was it sometime down the line for you?
No, it took time. A one shot is a one shot, but then there's the challenge. Was it a fluke? And each in his own way. Marty as this phenomenal goalie who played a hybrid style of goaltending, which was very special. Stevens with his destructive body checks. I know the Dallas series that proved it. And I always say, I'm telling you this now, after they won the cup in 2000, they should have beaten Colorado in the 2001 series. There was a play. The game 6, the Devils scored the first goal. Scotty Gomez scored the goal, and it was disallowed. It was a terrible, terrible call. If that goal had stood up, they would have won the series. They would have won the cup that game. But what are you going to do? They by that time, they had established themselves as one of the great teams of all time.
That 2001 Cup Finals, Game 6 that you referenced, one of the most heartbreaking games I've ever been to live. Rewinding the season before that, I told the story to some of these people before, but in 2000, I had begged my father to bring me and my brother to Game 5. Devils up 3-1, obviously losing triple overtime on the tip. It was terrible. I didn't go to school the next day. Series 3-2. They go to Dallas. Luckily, the Devils won in Dallas. All was well. They still won the cup. It was unfortunate I didn't get to see it at home. But now we go to 2001, and I'm like, the cup is in the building again. We're up 3-2. They're going to win. Begged my parents again, somehow go again. And then they laid that egg. And then worse than the previous season, they then go out to Denver in Game 7 and lose. Definitely, for me personally, the roughest playoff series or single game would be those two for me in terms of Devils. And I actually watched just last night. I didn't realize there was a segment of you guys. It was I think you, Chico, and Doc. It was like a news segment after Game 7 of that season, of that game, the 2001 Cup Finals. And I don't remember, not that you were brutal, but you were way more direct and I guess justified criticism of certain players. And it seems like today you don't really see that anymore. And I'm curious your thoughts on, how the media or coverage has changed over the years, because while I don't think you said anything crazy, watching it last night after not seeing it all these years, and I'm like, wow, that would never, I don't know if it maybe wouldn't fly, but it just seemed way more kind of authentic and no filter than what we would see today. And I'm just curious what you think about how that's kind of changed over the years.
I remember it vividly, and I was, when I'm doing a game like I was doing then, I'm a fan, and I was crushed by the way that Game 6 had gone, and I also felt that Marty should have gotten that goal that the defenseman
Foot.
beat. Pardon?
Adam Foote.
Foot, yeah. He should have had the foot, but he didn't. Okay. And I didn't like the whole Denver scene. I was really very, very partisan. I was watching the game with one of our crew members, Larry Gaines. So I was in a very lousy mood to begin with. I had to do the Avalanche dressing room, which I hated because I didn't like these guys. And by the time I was doing that thing with Doc and Chico, I was inwardly furious. And what you saw is what was my fury being translated into verbiage. You're getting me mad. Now you're getting me mad.
That's a brutal one. Even watching the clip, and I'll post the link in the description for that as well. You could kind of see the Stan Fischler eulogy, if you will, on that season and kind of where he was at in the moment. Very authentic, and I will post that for everyone to see. Which of the Devils Cup teams do you believe was the best and why?
Nobody ever posed that question to me. I'd take the first one. The reason why I'll take the first one is the way they marched through and took out Detroit with the great Bowman and all these Hall of Famers so well. And a lot of it was the youthful energy. It's only a matter of small degrees between them because they beat a very, very strong Dallas team, and they did it on the road, and that was, and they did it in heroic fashion. The way the winning goal was set up and killing the penalty. The Duck series was strange because it should not have gone to a Game 7. Marty had one bad game in Anaheim, and it was a Paul Correa goal that turned the game around. That was after Stevens had flattened him. It was a great comeback by Correa. I didn't think that game should have gone. That series should have gone to 7 games, but it did. And of course, when you go to a 7th game, you're nervous and everything. And it was a very weird 7th game also, but we won. And so I would, in order of preference, I would take the first win, the second win, the third one being the least of the 3 on my list.
Fair enough. Staying on topic with 2003, what did you think of Marty not getting the Conn Smythe? And at that time, did you vote on this? Did you have a vote?
No, I didn't vote on it, and I thought he got robbed. It was a sympathy vote, and I did not think that it was fair. Simple as that.
Yeah, his
It was
numbers
a
were
bad.
insane.
But a lot. This happens all the time. So what are you going to do?
I mean, but I figured, 7 shutouts in the playoffs, 3 in the
Look,
final.
he got robbed. It's as simple as that. You know.
Did you vote for any throughout your career? Did you vote for any of the different awards at any point?
I stayed away from that. First of all, I remain independent. I never joined the Hockey Writers Association, and I'm not a member, and I'm proud of it. And I'm not a member. I never was a member of the TV, the electronic version, and I was proud of that too. I kept my independence.
What was the main, the driving factor for that?
Because I always was that way as a kid growing up. I was always doing things a little bit different than the others. I rooted for the St. Louis Cardinals instead of the Brooklyn Dodgers. And I was a hockey fan when everybody else in my neighborhood was either baskets or baseball or football. And I stayed that way, and I'm still that way.
I like it. Go against the grain a little bit. Be yourself. I think I'm kind of similar to that in some fashion. So, again, going back again to '95, what do you remember about the epic Stevens and Lindros battles during that series?
This was epic. It was epic. There was nothing like it in terms of what it was in history. And you have two giants in various ways, physically and in terms of what they did to the game. And I covered the game when Scotty torpedoed him. And that was, and as body checks goes, it was epic. And beating Philly the way we beat Philly, and how Patrick Elias, another feather in his cap, and should be in the Hall of Fame, that huge goal late in the third period. That was the kind of stuff that, in my mind, these are all golden episodes.
For sure, some of my best memories as a kid involved, even though I hated the Flyers, I did really enjoy watching Lindros play, and watching him and Stevens go to war was just, they don't make them like those guys anymore. And I remember the one, I forget what game it was, when Stevens was like smirking at him with blood trickling down his face, looking like a total lunatic. I mean, wow, what an era.
Eric Lindros, a lot of people didn't like him. He was one of my favorite interviews. He never turned me down, ever. And later, when he came to the Rangers, I remember meeting him in a bike store on Broadway, and we had a reunion with our bicycles. He was a great guy, and he was a terrific competitor, but he wasn't on the Devils.
No. All right, so now I, as I alluded to there, always loved the rough and tumble kind of guys. A few years back, you put out, and I'll put the link in the description for this for everyone to read it as well, but Stan's list, all-time toughest Devils, and I'm going to skip some of the ones that came before me, but I'm just going to name a guy and then just kind of give me whatever comes to mind about the guy. And if you have any off-ice stories, the off-ice stories are really awesome from you. So if you have any of those, but I'll start with your number 5 on the list was Brendan Shanahan. Shanny.
Shanny was drafted, and the day he was drafted, he showed up in Jersey wearing a green outfit. I'll never forget that, and a pure Irishman. And he was the quintessential power forward of his time, and even later as a Ranger, he took on some pretty tough characters. He wasn't afraid to fight. He was all around solid, and has had a great career.
I remember his last season when Lou brought him back towards the end, and at that point he had 600 goals, whatever. He fought Eric Bolton. I remember watching it, and I'm like, this guy is insane. Like, to see him at that age fighting legitimate super heavyweight enforcers, I mean, they definitely don't make him any tougher than Brendan Shanahan. Number 4 on your list, Pat Verbeek.
Patty was little as players went, but very muscular. And his significant fight was against Brian Leach in that home stretch. It was in Jersey. And say what you will, but he beat the crap out of Leach. And he was, it didn't matter how big the guy was, he fought him. Patty was the guy who almost helped us beat the Bruins in that Game 7. But he, again, he's like a Ty Domi type, a little guy, but ferocious.
Number 3, Randy McKay.
What a wonder! What a just pure, tough, great guy to talk to. Great interview. And I always remember him scoring that big overtime goal when he climbed up the glass. And he was, I would say, he was in the light heavyweight division and totally fearless.
Always love Randy. I did an interview with him this summer. He really does tell great stories also. Number 2, Mr. Devil, Ken Danico.
Kenny, another one. He was with the team at the beginning when they needed somebody to stick up for the not such a good players, and he was a warrior. He was a warrior. The only time I felt a little bit sorry for him, he went up against a Ranger. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. He was a younger guy, and it was one of the. I guess it was the only time I ever saw Kenny lose a fight.
Was that later in his career?
Yeah, it was at the end. It was kind of sad.
Who do we have here? Number 1, Scott Stevens.
Well, Stevens was the if you wanted Hollywood to create the perfect defenseman for a Hollywood movie, and Scotty had the look when he was angry. He had the body. He could torpedo anybody with that body, and he did. And he was a marvelous leader. And of course, he also had offense. And I remember against in a Pittsburgh series where he scored a huge goal in the third period. He was everything. And he was the quintessential captain.
Where would you put him historically in terms of, I guess, captains and defensemen, being that you've seen it all? So these kind of historic questions, there's no better person on planet Earth to ask than you. Where would you rank him, I guess, in terms of a captains, and then I guess defense?
Well, he's at the top because of what he did. The 3 cups, the leadership, the scope of his game. It wasn't just defense, it was offense, it was leadership, and it was the look. So I'd have to say that there were a few like him. The Canadians had Doug Harvey, who was a lot like Scotty, but it was from a different era. Harvey arguably was the greatest defenseman of all time, if you ask Scotty Bowman, if you ask me. But Scotty Stevens was right at the top.
Better captain, Scott Stevens or Mark Messier?
What's that?
Said better captain, Scott Stevens or Mark Messier?
Well, Stevens, because he stayed with the team. You have to say that Messier was a Hessian. He was with the Rangers, he was with Edmonton, he was with Vancouver. So I don't really count that.
2026 Winter Olympics are coming up. Where would you, or I guess, how big do you think the 1980 Miracle on Ice team was in terms of growing the sport of hockey?
At the top, because we're still talking about them. My friend Alan Crater just did a book with Kenny Morrow. Very, very, very fine book. It's in the second printing. Romantic. You got guys like Eruzione, the captain of the team, refuses to go into big league hockey. He stopped there. You had a tragic figure with Mark Pavlich. You had the heroic Herbie Brooks. It was definitive, and it may. And now, what are you seeing? We're having Americans coming from Arizona to play in the NHL. You got kids learning the game in Florida, playing into the NHL. And America has taken the lead now over Canada. And it actually started in 1960, but the 80 team really spread the word all over. And we're going to be talking about it forever.
Did you happen to catch any of the Four Nations last year?
Yes, and they were. It was a terrific thing. Everybody mocked it up until the game started, and then it was another great hockey adventure.
Yeah, I thought it was phenomenal as well. They definitely should look into doing more stuff like that. Lastly, Stan, do you have an Olympic prediction?
I don't have an Olympic prediction, but since you asked me, I go with Uncle Sam.
Let's go.
Uncle Sam's hockey is the best in the world right now, and it's going to keep getting better. I have a granddaughter who is now 16 playing for a school called the Culver Academy, which was George Steinbrenner's school in Indiana. She plays defense, and women's hockey is now it's blossoming. You know, we're the best in both men and women, and we're going to win the gold.
I really hope they do, Stan. I still am haunted by both the 2002 and 2010 gold medal games where America, USA just couldn't get it done, unfortunately. And then dramatic fashion, 2010 at the time, Devil, very good player, Zach Parise ties it up. And then Sid got us in overtime, obviously. And then the 2002 was super weird as a Devils fan and an American because I had to root for Mike Richter over Marty in a winner takes all game. And it was definitely, country over team, obviously, but it was a conflicting thing as a fan. And I remember thinking like, I hate this guy every other day of the year, but here we are. He's going against Marty for the gold. But hopefully, I really hope USA can get it done this time around. I do think they have a great roster on paper. Hopefully it translates and they finally could get over the hump, and would love to see them beat the Canadians in the gold medal game. Stan, this was awesome. Thank you so much. I could talk to you for days on end. There are no questions that you don't know the answer to. And I have a bunch more. So hopefully we could do this again one day. I really enjoyed it.
We can do it again. I've enjoyed this immensely. If I had planned it a little more better, we could have gone on. But we'll do it again.
No, I really appreciate it and look forward to it, Stan. Thank you so much. I will reach out to you soon and let everyone know in closing where they can find you, any projects you're working on, and I'll put all those links in the description as well.
Okay. Plugging Tales of Brooklyn is just what I appreciate, and I will leave you with this ace. You are an ace.
Thank you very much, Stan. I really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your night. It was awesome talking to you. I'll talk to you again. Thank you so much. Have a great one.
Okay, pal.
Take care. Bye.